Man, I am so excited to see the Peacemaker intro again. Wait. I'm gonna have to learn a whole new dance. Damn. Welcome to Cue the Cameo. I'm Jess. Today we are going to spend 10 minutes talking about 10 things you need to know about Peacemaker Season 2. Peacemaker Season 2 just debuted on HBO Max. It is, of course, directed by James Gunn, who just gave us Superman in theaters, which was absolutely incredible. Going into this season, we already know that Peacemaker is going to have a big impact on this new phase of the DCU, with James Gunn teasing that Peacemaker is going to set up the future of the DCU, even more so than what we got in Superman. He's also, well, actually, I'll get to that in a second. Bottom line is, Peacemaker is going to be the kickoff of the new Gunverse DCU. So if you're not locked in, lock in now. I've got my timer right here. It's going to help me keep track. 1 minute on one topic, 10 things. Let's do it. So the first thing we have to talk about is the differences between Season 1 and the Season 2 previously on. Primarily the Justice League versus Justice Gang scene. Now, in Season 1 and the last episode, we see Peacemaker come up against Superman, Aquaman, and the Flash. In Season 1, we see Peacemaker giving Aquaman shit for having relations with a fish. This is, of course, to a callback to previous scenes that we saw in Season 1, where Peacemaker is talking about the Justice League. Now in Season 2, we have Peacemaker confronting Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl after they failed to show up for the big battle scene with the cow. James Gunn has said in interviews that these previously on scenes that we are getting replaces what happens in Season 1. So Peacemaker and the Justice League have never actually set foot in this version of the DCU. Rather, he has had previous encounters with the Justice Gang, specifically Guy Gardner's Green Lantern. And that is our timer. Number 2, where are all the characters now? Now, as part of the previously on scenes, we see Leota making the same call, narking on her mother, Amanda Waller, reporting that Argus has been conducting some questionable activities involving Peacemaker and the rest of the gang. Now, we don't get the scene with Amanda Waller in this version in Season 2, so it could be possible that Leota is calling someone else other than Amanda Waller. We still get references to Belle Reeve, so of course this is still the same universe, but we're not sure where Amanda Waller is at this point in time with Season 2. We also see that Amelia and Peacemaker have some awkward encounters. We'll get to that a little bit later. We also see Economos and Vigilante now becoming closer, with Vigilante calling Economos to talk to him about his owl interest.
Dude, listen. It's an owl.
Anyways, the group is spread pretty thin at the beginning of Season 2. Now onto one of the most obvious changes, the intro, which was so iconic in Season 1. Peacemaker and the rest of the cast dance to Wigwam's Do You Wanna Taste It?, which of course is this rallying war cry of a song about strength and confidence. Now we compare that to Season 2's Foxy Shazam's Oh Lord, which is still very much a glam rock theatrical song. However, it's much more about the internal struggles, existential crisis, a lack of confidence, and it is much more of a plea. Comparing that to Peacemaker Season 1, this is a huge contrast, and I think this is really giving us a sneak peek into what we're going to get in Season 2, where we're already seeing in Episode 1 Christopher Smith struggling with himself, struggling with the events of Season 1, still struggling with his childhood trauma, and I think that this existential crisis that this theme song is alluding to is going to be one of the key focal points of Season 2. All right, number 4, Peacemaker auditions for the Justice Gang. So Leota drives Peacemaker to an audition with the Justice Gang. This interview takes place at Crank Toys, which of course is canon within the DCU. We see White Rabbit, a Batman villain, walking out of the building in tears as Peacemaker walks in. The interview goes not very well. Maxwell Lord is the lead interviewer, who of course we also saw in Superman and is played by Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother. We see Hawkgirl and Guy Gardner's Green Lantern there as well. We get the sense that Peacemaker and Green Lantern have probably had some conflict, shall I say, in the past. The mics don't work very well, and so Peacemaker ends up hearing all the trash talk that 3 of the Justice Gang members are conducting behind the booth. Peacemaker ends up walking out pissed about how the interview went and determines that he is not fit for a member of the Justice Gang. Number 5, we get a hint that Peacemaker and Amelia have hooked up at some point between season 1 and season 2. Now, of course, at the end of season 1, we see them in the hospital together. Amelia and Christopher Smith touch hands, insinuating that maybe we'll get something out of that in season 2. It sounds like everything that has happened between the events of season 1 and season 2 has left that future unlikely. Both of them were under the influence, hooked up, and Amelia is adamant that she does not want to explore anything with Christopher Smith at this time. We of course see Amelia going through a bit of a rough time. She's rejected by a number of intelligence agencies, including the NSA, the CIA, the FBI. She's frustrated, she's down, she goes and incites a brawl at a local bar. We also get this hilarious scene where we see a psychologist speaking to someone behind the camera about toxic masculinity and anger issues. As the camera pans, we expect to see Christopher Smith, but of course we see Amelia sitting there instead. Number 6, Christopher Smith's bisexuality. Now in season 1, we get hints that Peacemaker is bisexual, particularly in one scene where Augie, his father, is insulting him. And now in season 2, we get the first visualization of that. After being rejected by Amelia and the Justice Gang, Christopher Smith ends up throwing a large orgy party at his house, which is his father's house that he now lives in. And we get the scene where he is kissed by both a male and a female and seems to enjoy it. And this is the first time we get his bisexuality expressed as part of the season, which I think is really interesting. And I'm interested to see if James Gunn actually takes this storyline anywhere. Of course, we have seen him and Amelia having some level of romantic interest in the past, but nothing yet with someone who is a male character in the show. So we'll see if there's more of that to come. Of course, the orgy does not fulfill Christopher Smith as he suspects, and he ends up drinking and drugging himself until he passes out. Number 7, the Sphere news show. This is a news show that we have gotten in Superman and the Creature Commandos. Of course, in Superman, we actually get a Peacemaker cameo where he is being interviewed on the Sphere. And now in season 2 Peacemaker, we get the Sphere pop up again, this time talking about prisoner escapes from Belle Reve and Arkham Asylum. This is, of course, a huge Batman reference. Now, we know James Gunn has talked about Batman being in this universe, but we have not heard anything about casting, about storylines yet. So for Arkham to be referenced in the first episode of season 2 makes me really excited for what's to come with Batman. Of course, Arkham Asylum holds major DCU/Batman villains, including Clayface, who James Gunn has already confirmed there is going to be a movie about, so I'm excited to see if we get more of these Clayface teasers in season 2 of Peacemaker. Number 8, the top trio. After Christopher Smith's party, he brings Eagly out into the multiversal portal closet because it's too cold for him to fly outside. Eagly ends up knocking on a door that looks suspiciously like Christopher Smith's. So Christopher Smith punches in the code that he knows, enters, and lo and behold, he discovers an alternate universe where his brother Keith and Augie and himself all live together in a mansion, having formed the superhero group, the Top Trio. This, of course, consists of Keith, who is wearing some sort of blue dragon costume, his father, Augie, who is wearing the white dragon costume that we see in season 1, and of course, Christopher Smith appearing as Peacemaker. We get a little bit of insight into Christopher Smith's life in this alternate universe. He seems a little bit more hardcore and maybe an overall more successful superhero. So I think this is where we could see themes from the main intro song come through around insecurity and existential crisis. And that brings us to number 9, variants on variants. we see Chris Smith spend the evening with his brother Keith and his father Augie in the mansion that his other version of himself lives in. We'll call him Evil Peacemaker for now. Of course, this is an incredibly emotional, stressful experience for him. He blames himself for the death of his younger brother Keith, which we saw in season 1. We also see him at the end of the night going around the mansion. He finds his room, giving us insight into who this evil peacemaker is, only to have evil peacemaker return from his crime fighting and hold a gun to his head. A chase ensues leading back to the multiversal closet, where Peacemaker is able to fend off evil Peacemaker by turning on the thrusters in his suit, sending him up to a spire in the ceiling, impaling and killing him. And that is where we end for episode 1. And that brings us to number 10. What in the universe is going to happen in Peacemaker season 2? So James Gunn has already teased that this is going to be a multiversal storyline, and based on the events of season 1, I can definitely see how that's going to happen. I think that we're going to get Chris Smith traveling between the two universes quite frequently. We know that in his universe, he is feeling down on himself. He doesn't feel successful in his superhero journey, and he's struggling a lot with his childhood trauma that was unresolved from season 1. Now we compare that to the new universe that he has just discovered, where he is part of a successful superhero gang. He is reunited with his brother. He has a good relationship with his father, and he's a celebrated superhero group. And he is maybe dating Amelia. These are all the things that Christopher Smith is craving, all the things that he wants out of life right now. I think that we are going to get an interesting dichotomy of the two universes, side by side, him traveling between the two to maintain both lives. And we'll be kind of sad to see how this will play into the bigger DCU storyline. Now, James Gunn has teased that episodes 6, 7, and 8 of this show are so spoiler-filled that he won't even release it to critics or even his own publicist, in fears that these spoilers will come out. So I think that we are going to get some really interesting DCU stuff at the end of the season, and I'm excited to see how that storyline takes us there. Let us know in the comments what you think is going to happen in season 2 of Peacemaker. Let us know your predictions. What do you think of the first season so far? And stay tuned, as we'll be back with more recaps of Peacemaker season 2 and the rest of the DCU. Thanks for watching.